At this point of the presentation, we'll make a review of chapter number 4 based on the three theories of language acquisition or language learning. My classmates were explaining the behaviorism, hypnotism, and cognitive perspective from the first language acquisition. However, I'll do it from the second language acquisition. The behaviorism was seen as a matter of habits the learners had whenever they wanted to learn another language. The habits were going to infer in how learners learned the other language. However, according to the hypnotism, that doesn't have to be with that because the process of learning is more than habits. For hypnotism, the process of learning is something that is inside of our brain. For that reason, many searchers in linguistics were arguing about how this behaviorist perspective can be used in second language acquisition. As I was saying in the last presentation, the hypnotism says that for Chomsky, language is part of a mechanism inside every person. However, there is a time frame in which humans acquire the language and depending on the environment they grow. However, Chomsky doesn't state any claims about the implications of the theory for second language learning, and that's something that was found by Lydia White, Robert Blue Broman, and Jacqueline Katcher. Also, inside this perspective or theory, we have the Krashen's monitor model, and this model is the more accurate for the use of second language learning. For example, it states some hypotheses. The first one is acquisitional learning hypothesis, in which it is used the UG, which is the universal grammar. Also, we have the monitor hypothesis, in which the own learner monitors his or her growth through making writings and readings. Also, the acquisition is part of a natural order. As human beings, we all have the capacity to communicate and to learn languages. In the same way, we learned our first second language. Acquisition is based on access to comprehensible input containing. As I was saying before, the hypnotism it also refers to the environment in which the learner starts learning about the other language, and also that stress and negative affect interfere with acquisition. In other words, the affective filter. What does this mean? That if the learner feels stressed about learning or trying to use the second language, this person is going to have more problems at the moment of trying to use it. Continuing with the theories stated in chapter 4, we have the cognitive perspective, and as part of it, the information processing. This theory contradicts hypnotism due to the process of learning and thinking are a whole and are not separated, whilst hypnotism see the learning process as a model inside the brain. First and second language acquisition or learning are similar, but the difference between them depends on the circumstances of learning. In other words, the environment in which the learner grows, as well as the knowledge learners already have. Depending on the knowledge they have, we can say that there are some learners that are false and true beginners. And also something important that needs to be taken into account with this perspective is the importance they give to it. In other words, the commitment they have whenever they want to learn the second language. Also, within the information processing cognitive psychologists stated that the language acquisition is the base of knowledge that can be automatically used for speaking and understanding. Also, the new information is noticed before it's learned. Before we start learning something, we need to have the information there and we need to acknowledge what we are going to do at least. Also, we have that there's a limit to how much information a learner can pay attention to. So, teachers need to find a time frame in which the learners pay full attention to the contents are shared with them, because in that way they are going to get better at the language. In number 4, we have the information that is new becomes easy for learners through the practice and experience. This is something important because every learner should study and practice, 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 because at the end, things that are new for him or her are going to become easier with the pass of the time and the practice as well as the experience, as it is stated here. The usage-based learning as part of the cognitive perspective is in opposition with the Ignatius theory. It says that the learning process is not a model of different hypotheses. For Nick Ellis in second language learning, the frequency with specific linguistic features in input and frequency occur together, and neurological connections are made between language and a particular meaning or a situation. According to Elizabeth Bates, the competition model was designed for both, not only for the first but also for the second language acquisition and learning. And it takes into account the language's use and meaning. It is important to know how to manage both because we as learners are going to use the language while trying to express ourselves, but also we need to acknowledge that there are some other meanings of different things in different moments and situations. Peter Robinson and Nick Ellis 2008 said that language is learned through our cognitive experiences, and like other aspects of learning, the learning of a language involves discovery, categorization, determination of patterns with the use of it. Almost finishing this presentation of the chapter 4, with the cognitive perspective, we have the brain second language applications. And this challenges to the assumption that language functions are located in the left hemisphere of the brain. Research shows activation in both areas of the brain while language is processed. Differences have been observed between first and second language learners, and premature to consider implications of neurolinguistic research for L2 teaching. So, what this is trying to say is that the assumption that we only use the left hemisphere whenever we were using our language is not right, because when we are talking we use both parts of our brains, both hemispheres, not only the left but also the right. And what has been found also is that there's a difference between the areas that are used whenever we use the first or second language.